the verse effect. It's the random effect. It's the verse effect.
I write the lyrics to change the game. Nothing's ever gonna be the same.
It's the random effect.
It's just the verse effect.
It's the verse effect.
It's the verse effect.
It's the verse effect.
I write the lyrics to change the game. Nothing's ever gonna be the same.
Welcome back to The Verse Effect, the podcast where rap lyrics get analyzed, dissected, and discussed. My name is Camille.
With me, Roderick. A reminder that in this episode we will be discussing lyrics that contain mature and explicit content and themes. Listener discretion is advised. Today we're diving into Raekwon's Ice Cream, and honestly, this hook, French vanilla, butter pecan, chocolate deluxe, is just iconic. Like, you hear that and you know exactly what vibe they're on. Camille, where do you even start with a hook that's got folks thinking about the corner store freezer and a summer block party at the same time?
It's such a smart, playful metaphor, isn't it? It's almost, well, sweet, but also super coded. They're not literally talking about dessert. Each flavor, it's really pointing to women of different backgrounds. French vanilla is lighter-skinned women, chocolate deluxe, darker, and butter pecan for those mixed or Latina backgrounds. That's straight out of African American vernacular, where food has always been part compliment, part lived experience. But the thing that strikes me is how Raekwon transforms this everyday, almost childlike thing, ice cream, into a whole narrative about desire, attraction, and honestly, even status. It feels innocent, but it's layered.
Yeah, and the way the song frames the ice cream truck as a sort of, like, mobile romantic adventure, that's next level. It's wild how they take something you'd see rolling down the street in Staten Island and flip it into this elaborate metaphor for pursuit. And, I mean, food metaphors, especially compliments, run deep in our culture. I remember my grandmother calling kids sugar and honey. Raekwon just amps that up into something artistic, using language only folks from the block would instantly parse, but it's poetic at the same time.
And think about it. Mid-90s New York, rappers were really stretching how they used language. This kind of coded talk about romance, even when it gets a bit objectifying, was so much a part of how MCs told those stories. What's great with Raekwon, though, is he takes the playfulness and cranks up the sophistication. He made it cool to go deep with a simple idea. It's not just she's fine, it's chocolate deluxe fine, you know?
Exactly. It's like what we talked about with Outkast last time, the way Players Ball celebrated Southern roots. Here, Raekwon's using food, and these flavors are carrying all this weight about identity, desire, and honestly, how we categorize people, sometimes for better, sometimes not. But they're showing off how you can build a whole world from something everybody recognizes, and that's what makes them great. All right, speaking of things everybody chases after, let's talk about Raekwon's philosophy on money.
Now here's where it goes from playful to, I don't want to say bleak, but real. You can have anything in this world except cream. That's the line, right? And cream stands for cash rules everything around me. You won't get a more direct statement of priorities, and it's kind of a mission statement for the whole clan when you think about it.
Yeah, and it's a callback to their 1993 single, which honestly still gives me chills every time I hear it. C.R.E.A.M was about survival. Nothing soft, nothing fantasy. They made it clear. Money means survival, means eating, means a roof, so everything else comes second. Even romance. There's a generosity in the verse, like, I'll hook you up with anything, I'll spoil you. But that line right there, that's like, accept my hustle money. That's sacred. Especially when you grow up with not much, that line hits hard. I remember seeing that growing up in Oakland. Cash was never just cash. It was frequently life or death.
Right. And I think Raekwon's genius was rooting even his most playful or romantic tracks in these underlying economic realities. You can hear that tension. Yeah, have fun, flirt, show off, but don't get it twisted about what's really at stake. It's almost philosophical, the way they rank romantic pleasure below financial security. And that's so real for a lot of folks. Love gets complicated when survival's not assured.
It's deep because, under all the fun, he's still schooling you on hierarchy and priorities in the hood. And to your point, Camille, it doesn't lose the vibe, it just grounds it in reality. That made Raekwon's stories feel like they were for the people actually living those lives, not just the folks looking in from outside. Alright, so let's get strategic with it. Raekwon brings up chess moves and alter egos next.
Now enter the myth-making phase. Raekwon calls himself Starkey Love Hun and then says, check the strategy. There's this whole current running through Wu-Tang where it's about more than being tough on the street. It's about being smart, planned, even strategic in romance and in everything else. They made chess metaphors cool. That 5% nation influence with all that talk of knowledge and constantly calculating moves, you hear it right here.
Yeah, and it sets them apart. They're not just flexing, they're building whole personas, almost comic book or kung fu level alter egos. I always liked that about Wu-Tang. They had these elaborate nicknames. Starkey Love Hun is just one. It's theatrical, but it's also about intellectual depth. Like, you gotta respect the chessboard, not just the muscle. That hits different than just like, I'm a hard dude, period.
It's a clever move because it allows them to claim a kind of street nobility, right? There's dignity in having a plan, even in love. It's swagger, but with a brain. Which honestly links back to what we talked about on the Nas episode, how Nas used his pen as a weapon, not just force. Wu-Tang takes it and makes it cinematic, epic almost.
And you can hear in these lyrics that they're inviting you to watch the moves. Like, check the strategy. Not just do what I do, but see how I think. That's part of why later generations of MCs started taking themselves more seriously as writers and storytellers. Wu-Tang kind of made it cool to be a mastermind, not just a player. Speaking of reaching out, Wu-Tang never kept their world small either. Let's talk about them showing love all over the city. Multicultural style.
So, next up is Raekwon's Venequilla, that seamless switch into Spanish. It's quick but packs a punch. Wu-Tang was fluent in the street language of New York, not just English, but the codes and mixes you'd hear on the corner, especially in neighborhoods where Black and Latino folks were living shoulder to shoulder. That code switching, that willingness to cross linguistic lines, it's not forced, it's real. That was Staten Island.
Yeah, and it's something that makes Wu-Tang, and honestly East Coast hip-hop in general, so special. These weren't isolated pockets. It was this big stew. Puerto Rican, African-American, Dominican, everybody drawing from the same city, same bodega sandwich runs, same block parties. When they throw that Spanish in, it's just what it sounded like, you know? For Wu-Tang, that gave them instant credibility. Like, we move through all these worlds.
It's inclusive, but also, to be real, it's romantic catalog, almost a checklist. And while today we might look at that approach and see some limits, at the time it was boundary breaking. We saw the same kind of celebration of local culture in Outkast's Players Ball. Different geography, different mix, but the same heart. Hip-hop was and is about reflecting your block, the people, the languages, all of it.
And it's that cosmopolitan energy that made New York hip-hop's golden age feel universal. Wu-Tang was letting you know, diversity was the real power play. Of course, that brings us to one of the more complicated lines in this song, right? It's time to get into the next lyric, which hasn't aged as gracefully, but deserves an honest look. So here's the line, and let's be honest, it doesn't sit easy. Not a rape patient, you're looking good fly-colored Asian. The intent there, at least I think, is to say the attraction is mutual, like, I'm not forcing anything. But yeah, by today's standards, it's pretty awkward. Raekwon wasn't shy about taking risks with language, but you see the limits of the era too.
That's right, and I think we have to be honest about the language of the mid-90s in hip-hop, not just Raekwon and Wu-Tang. Consent and sexual politics were not usually handled delicately, and sometimes even an attempt to acknowledge mutual attraction came out sounding off. They were grappling with it, messily, imperfectly. But again, there's that multicultural catalog. Now it's the Asian women, and this sort of broad sweep of, well, desire. It's a time capsule, uncomfortable, but revealing about the broader male gaze dominating hip-hop then.
Absolutely, Camille. I mean, this isn't unique to Wu-Tang Clan, but they definitely didn't avoid those minefields. It's like, you want to commend them for reaching across boundaries, culturally, linguistically, but at the same time, the way women were described could feel pretty objectifying. So, as we look at the legacy, we gotta acknowledge both the innovation and the problems, especially when it comes to how women are talked about in these songs.
Exactly. There's progress in making consent part of the narrative, but it also shows there was and is plenty further to go. These contradictions are part of hip-hop's evolution. As the culture changes, so does the language. I always say you can love a song's artistry and still see its blind spots. Now, with that complexity on the table, let's bring it all together in thinking about what Ice Cream actually meant for hip-hop going forward.
Look, Ice Cream is a pillar track for a reason. If you talk about Wu-Tang's contributions to hip-hop, this is it in a nutshell. Take something local and raw, elevate it with RZA's production, then build myth and language that everyone wants to try and copy. That whole cinematic vibe, that started here. The metaphors, the linked characters, the coded slang. Suddenly you had this model where rap was about world building, and being smart, and being fly all at once.
And you know, their impact rippled out. Whole generations of MCs started getting more ambitious with their lyrics. If you wrote a punchline in the late 90s or early 2000s, 9 times out of 10, you were chasing Wu-Tang's complexity. Even with messy politics around gender and the way some lines haven't aged, Ice Cream still set that bar for how street experience could become musical art. I'd say it's almost like what we discussed about Biggie's Juicy, authenticity plus ambition, both at once.
Exactly. And where Raekwon and Wu-Tang really left their mark was showing you could be raw and brilliant, cinematic, gritty, and poetic all at the same time. They turned lived experience, slang, even pain, into universes other folks could enter. Ice Cream is playful on the surface, but that play is serious. It helps cement the golden age of East Coast hip-hop, and honestly, it still feels fresh. Camille, you want to wrap us up?
Sure thing, Roderick. Raekwon reminded us that even a song about romance and flavor can have real depth and complexity, and sometimes contradictions. We hope digging into Ice Cream has given you new angles and questions to chew on. We'll keep exploring the poetry and problems in hip-hop with every episode. Roderick, always fun to chop it up with you.
Always, Camille. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. Catch us next time for another trip into the lyrics that changed the game. Be safe, keep listening, and keep the record spinning. Peace out.
It's the verse effect, it's the verse effect.
I write the lyrics that change the game. Nothing's ever gonna be the same.
Nothing's ever gonna be the same.
I write the lyrics that change the game. Nothing's ever gonna be the same. Nothing's ever gonna be the same.